Hey, my friends. I mentioned in another video that I had always had an unhealthy relationship with food. And when I say always, I mean always. So I'm going to go back to the beginning. My parents were kind of screwed up people. They were abusive. I've got a lot of stories to tell, but I'm going to try to focus mainly on the food issues here, or anything that related to the food issues. I was adopted when I was 5 days old, and my parents, mainly my mother, was looking for that spectacular golden child. She and my dad, they were both Italian. Both their families were Italian. They were all these olive skin. Most of them had brown eyes, though my dad did have green eyes. Dark hair. And well, they got married in the 60s. They couldn't have children, so they adopted me. And my mother had actually turned down a few other children because she was just looking for the right kind of child. News that I was coming from blonde hair, blue eyed people, and I was very fair skinned, and I guess she just thought that was the look that was gonna be. Because my mother, to her, nothing was more important than appearances and making herself look good and how things reflected on her, be it her clothes, her hairstyle, her makeup, her home, her, how clean she kept her house, how she cooked, which she wasn't very good at, and, obviously me, because she had no intention of telling me or anybody else that I was adopted. She didn't like the idea that anybody knew. But of course, there were people around at the time who knew, and she pretty much swore them to secrecy for me. But it was actually for her. Anyway, they bring me home, and I'm sure she's thrilled because she had her moments where she could be all cuddly and seem loving, and I'm sure she cared in her own way. But my dad always made me feel very loved. I mean, he could be abusive, but at the same time, I felt like his love was so genuine for who I was, whereas my mother's love for me always came with a clause. It was based on what I was doing for her, how I was making her feel, how I was making her look. It was always conditional. In my early life, very quickly, I realized that I could eat pretty much whatever I wanted. My parents were Italian and their families were Italian, so they were big into food and big meals. My dad was totally a meat and potatoes man. Did I say neither one of them were overweight? So my dad was this meat and potatoes man. And, dinner for us was often a big steak and some potatoes. We rarely had vegetables. My mother's idea of vegetables was either a salad, which was iceberg lettuce with some cucumber or tomato, if she had any, and the vinegar and oil, olive oil. Well, traditionally in Italian they'd use olive oil, but my mother started getting cheap and she'd just get like a thing of corn oil. And my dad's that's all he really ever wanted. The other vegetable that we would occasionally eat was spinach. And the way my mother made spinach is she'd get the frozen kind, she'd boil it, then she'd squeeze out all the water until it was somewhat dry, and then she'd throw it in a pan with about a half a cup to a cup of corn oil or vegetable oil and garlic, and saute it until the spinach would soak up all of the oil. And if we weren't eating meat and potatoes with possibly a vegetable, we were eating pasta. We had pasta almost every single Sunday without fail. We'd have leftovers for the next couple of days for lunches. If my mother didn't get to the store, didn't get some meat, she always had frozen pasta sauce that she would make and freeze. And she'd throw it, some spaghetti together, or she would use, well, again, traditionally it would be olive oil, but she'd use corn oil because she didn't see the difference. She wasn't much of an eater. She was less than 100 pounds for most of my life. I know when she was a teenager, she weighed about 120 for a while, and it really freaked her out. And her cousin told me that she always told me she lost the weight. Just, she wanted to, she made up her mind. That's how she used to say when people wanted to lose weight. They just made up their minds. And she would say, I just made up my mind. And she lost the weight. She was only like 5'1", 5'2". And her cousin later told me that she actually almost died trying to lose weight by drinking vinegar because she thought that it would shrink her stomach. I think she had some kind of eating disorder. She rarely ate. She mostly drank coffee throughout the whole day. But she loved to feed people, which was really weird. She loved to make huge amounts of food and encourage people to eat more and more. So when I was younger, I was a big target of that behavior. Go ahead, here, have this. Have breakfast. Have a snack. Have lunch. Have a snack. Have dinner. You want a snack? Or we have to have a midnight snack before you go to bed so you don't get hungry before the morning. And there was just no concern about how many cookies or how many crackers or how much, there's no concern about fat, carbs, and she did not understand like food and calories and portions and measurements at all. She just gave me whatever I want basically. And we had tons of sugary cereals in the house, and I could have one bowl, I could have another bowl if I want. We had, sometimes she would make bacon and eggs or pancakes in the morning, and I'd get a big stack of pancakes or a large portion of bacon. Sometimes she just gave me cookies for breakfast. Yeah, graham crackers or Oreos or chocolate chips. Those were my favorites. And at night, the same thing. She always insisted, oh, you gotta have your midnight snack. It's late. You gotta go to bed. Let's have that midnight snack. And again, I'd get cookies or ice cream or any kind of sweet I wanted. We had soda in the house constantly, even though my mother didn't drink soda and my father barely ever drank it. He was also a coffee drinker. Both of them would have coffee and they'd kind of like, and it wasn't one of those fancy Starbucks type coffees either. They just made black coffee and put a little sugar in it, maybe a little milk. And it would be something they'd nurse all day. And then maybe at dinner, my dad would sit down and have a soda with his dinner. And she'd just sip coffee throughout the day. And my dad ate kind of normal, but my mother barely ate. But she loved to give me food. And if I was bad, she would bribe me with food. If I was good, she would reward me with food. If I was fussy or getting into some kind of mischief, she would distract me with food. Food just became the answer to everything, Oh, you did good. Here's cookies. Here's ice cream. Like, oh, stop being bad. Here, come here and have some food. It would calm me down. She also didn't really encourage physical activity. Now, I became physically active. I started, like, she couldn't hold me back. I went out of the house. I skated. I skateboarded. I rode my bike. I liked to play. I liked to be outside. But basically, she didn't like me getting dirty. She wanted to keep my clothes nice and wanted to keep my hair nice and wanted to keep me looking the picture perfect little child. So she really just wanted me to stay in my room and watch TV or draw or read books because she didn't want me to make a mess when I was home. And we didn't really do a lot together. My dad used to take me to parks. He used to take me to the movies. He used to come home and read stories to me, or come home and I'd put on my old Victrola and listen to some music. It was the early 70s, and he'd come in and sing and dance with me to things like Sonny and Cher or Tony Orlando and Dawn or something like that. But my mom and me, we didn't really do fun stuff together. except maybe watch TV. And usually while we were watching TV, she was ironing or sewing, doing something along those lines. She didn't even like me to help cleaning because I might not do it right. So she didn't want me to even touch anything and take care of it. She just like, out of sight, out of mind, go in your room, don't make a mess, don't touch anything, and here, watch TV and sit down and have this food. That was a way to keep me kind of quiet. And then as I got a little bit older, if she wanted to piss me off, and she realized the power that food had over me, she would control me by denying me from getting everything I wanted, which after years of my younger childhood, up until maybe a little over school age of just having such free reign of food, I started eating a lot. I remember I could be in kindergarten, maybe grade 1 or 2. I could eat a whole sleeve of Oreo cookies. A whole sleeve. And sometimes I'd still ask for more. And I'd be allowed. Like, there was no sense of, I can't do this, that's not good for my child. I could also eat graham crackers. The box of graham crackers, like a pound or something like that, or a little over a pound. And it had 3 separate packages, and each package must have had about 8 whole long graham crackers in them. And I was allowed to eat at first 1 of those packages, and eventually it started becoming 2 of those packages. I mean, I forget, I'd get a bowl of milk, and I'd crumble them in there like it was freaking cereal. And when I ate, I got praise. When I finished my food, I got praised. When I asked for seconds, I had a healthy appetite, so I got praised. The family, not just my parents, but the rest of the family, oh, she's got such good appetite. Because when you went over grandma's house, or when aunts and uncles were there and we were all having a party or a dinner or a gathering, you didn't have a normal sized portion as a child. Children were given big ass portions of food, like adult sized portions, and God forbid we didn't finish it, because a lot of my aunts and uncles would get mad at you, get kind of in trouble. Even though my parents usually didn't care what I did, I mean, they just would encourage me to finish it and try to give me some guilt trip about starving children in Africa. My aunts and uncles, like, they literally, like, you're a bad kid, you should be punished. And that would embarrass my parents, and my parents turned, no, you got to finish your food. Even though I wasn't the one who took all that in the first place. If I got full, didn't matter, I had to finish it. I had to finish it. And if there was like a little bit left in the bowl, oh, don't make me have to put this away. Don't make me throw this out. Just have it. It's better than throwing it out. So I had that mentality. Don't waste food. Don't leave food on your plate. Don't listen to your internal hunger cues. Just eat. Eat for boredom. Eat for reward. Eat to make yourself feel better. Eat for comfort. And eat a lot. Because food is fun. Food is entertainment. Food is enjoying. So enjoy it and go for it. And it's never enough, until your sides are splitting. It's just not enough. And because I was younger, and I guess I was still very active, my mother didn't like it, but I was always getting outside, whether she liked it or not, because she would go to bingo a lot. She would do her thing. She'd wake up and prepare food or clean or whatever, then go to bingo, then come home and do stuff and prepare dinner or whatever, and then go to bingo. Sometimes twice in a day, sometimes once. But even when I went to school, I was a latchkey child, not because my mother had a job like the other latchkey children, but because my mother went to bingo with my aunts and her friends. My mother was not a pleasant person to be around when you were in that small circle of people who knew the other side of her that the rest of the world didn't see. I held my normal healthy weight despite all the junk I was eating until I was probably that preteen age when puberty hits. But I guess I'll get to that another time. For now, I'm just gonna leave it there. And again, I don't like to talk about these things as excuses of why I can't lose weight or why I didn't lose weight all over these years, but there's always reasons behind certain behaviors and actions and certain situations. And this is just, for me, this is my backstory. This was how I started out life, and started out with a very unhealthy relationship with food, and this is what made it hard. So thank you for listening. Thanks for watching. And I guess I will see you next time. See you soon.